Hi everybody, welcome to the Beetlejuice planning video. This video will be a little bit different than my other videos because I'm not actually making a miniature in this video. Well, I kind of am. I'm making a little tiny practice model, but I am actually making plans for my upcoming Beetlejuice house build. Have I said his name 3 times yet? I need to be careful. When I originally started my Addams Family project all those many years ago, I sketched out my plan on like a Wendy's napkin at lunchtime at my old job, and I didn't end up uploading any videos on the project until I was probably about a third of the way through. I still get comments to this day asking how people can see the very beginning of the Addams Family project. Well, I don't have that on video, but I have decided I'm going to share every step of this project process with you. So that begins with planning. This video is going to have a lot of talking, so if you do want to skip around, I will put some timestamps in the description box below. So let's get started. Here are the drawings that I came up with after watching the movie. I so wish that we could watch the movie together and we could just come up with ideas together, but copyright's not going to let that happen. So I'm gonna show you what I was able to pull out of the movie, and a lot of that is going to be the exterior and the floor plans, and then every time I saw something that I knew I specifically wanted to create, I added a list over here, and then I have the characters. I don't have Otho on here. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to be creating him, but these are the definite characters that I'm going to have in the project. Now I did want to interrupt myself right here because I didn't really explain why I wasn't maybe planning on making Otho. The reason for that is that the house in this movie is very much based on a timeline. It goes through so many changes through the duration of the movie, and even at the very last scene of the movie, they are trying to change the house once again. Barbara and Adam are taking down some of Delia's improvements. It just changes a lot. So for me to make this project make sense, I really had to try and pick a time on the timeline on which the house I am building sits. So currently I am planning my house build at the moment right after Beetlejuice is eaten by a sandworm. And so at that point, Otho had already taken off, although I do think it would be really fun to make him in his leisure suit. So I don't know. I'm not making any like concrete plans at this point. Things constantly change in my projects, but I think at the moment that's going to be where I'm marking the timeline for my version of the house. So I have the exterior here, and the key in the fact that I'm going to be making this project from scratch is that I have to make the exterior and the interior make sense with each other. When it comes to movies, they're not always filmed inside of the house that's pictured in the film. Sometimes they're stages. I actually haven't really looked into whether or not there was any filming done in the house that's shown in the movie, but I imagine as far as it goes with especially the scene where Lydia is flying or floating, there's probably some stage equipment up there, so it definitely is probably a stage, is just my guess. You can let me know in the comments below if you have more trivia on that. So while I was watching, I was just looking at the different rooms and where they seemed to make sense by watching the characters on where they walked. So this is the entrance, which is correlating with this part right here. So they would walk in here. This would be the living room, and here, let's see if I can put these side by side. This would be the living room, which would be this area right here. Why did I write display? It's more of like a sitting area here that has the bay window that correlates right here. And then this is the fireplace that gets manipulated, which means that there is a chimney that's going to be on this side, which does match up with the house. And then the dining room is going to be further back in the house, which means back here, kind of through this window, past this window. This seems to be where the sculpture display is. This is where they put Delia's sculptures. And then through here connects back to the kitchen, which seems to make sense when watching Barbara walk through the house. And then I think it's in one of the early scenes before they even drive across the bridge. They walk through the living room into the kitchen, and into what looks like a back porch, some kind of enclosed back porch, which makes sense with this piece that can be seen on the exterior. Then they walk down these stairs to where the car is with the garage. So there will be stairs coming out this way. So that's a long explanation just to kind of show you where my brain was at while I was hurriedly sketching these out as I was watching the movie. So this is the first floor, and it has an open ceiling right here. And while I was drawing, I was kind of flipping back and forth between the first floor and the second floor because obviously the walls on the exterior have to match up, and then especially the interior part where the stairs go up, that has to match up as well. So I have the stairs coming up right near the entrance, which is going to go up onto the second floor area. And this is the rounded area where you would see the snake banister kind of form. And then it seems to me like Lydia's room is back here. There is a walk-through bathroom at some point. There is definitely a study that is claimed by Charles. And I was trying to figure out exactly where the master bedroom is. I think it's over here. And then I think the door to the attic is at the end of this hallway here. So there's really just a small second story platform with 3 rooms. I'm sure there's a master bath. Maybe it's, I'm not quite sure where I would tuck it away, or if I would just kind of fake a door to a master bath. I'm not quite sure on that yet. And then the stairs to the attic, I believe, go this way, or at least that's how I'm kind of thinking about it in my head. Then this is the worst drawn out part of it. The stairs would come up here. There's an opening, and then there's like a platform that they step down onto. Then there's the couch that you very vividly see. I would put the model right here, front and center, because it's a very important part of the movie. And then there is some covered attic stuff, and then way over here would be the brick wall that opens into the nether portal or nether world, whatever you want to say. And this area is open, and so that's what I kind of have to figure out, because this roof goes this way and then this roof goes back, which makes the L shape that would be this area. So what I need to do today is make sense of all of this, add dimensions, and then start making a 3D model that's much smaller out of cardboard to make sure all these spaces make sense, and so I'm not surprised when I start actually building in 3D. Because going from 2D drawings to 3D can be very difficult, and I want to make sure I have as much information as I can, and by building a cardboard model, that will help me. Now it's time to get out all the drafting tools and get started. I also have my delicious snack, which contains chocolate, which is a very important step. Before I put the drafting tools to good use, I'm going to be using this gridded paper. This paper is specifically from my Dollhouse workbook, which is currently available in my store as a PDF download, but you don't need my workbook in order to do this method for a floor plan. On my drawing, each of the small squares is going to represent 1 inch squared once it's put into 1/12 scale. So if one of my walls is 3 boxes long, that means when I build it, it's going to be 3 inches long. The red Sharpie that I used to make the square on my paper represents the base of my project. Now I'm just taking my sketch and I'm starting to put real measurements to this sketch. If you are trying this for the first time, don't feel like you have to get it exactly perfect when you place down your lines, because I do later in the video go back and erase and change a lot of these lines. Even though I've worked with floor plans extensively in the past, I still get a few things wrong. So as long as I'm using pencil and I have an eraser, there's no problem in just trying to get what I think will work, and I can work it out later down the road. I laid down all my exterior walls first so that I knew I liked the shape of the building, and then I went back and added in my interior walls where I thought they would fit. Another good practice while doing this is to count the boxes inside the squares. So the dining room up in the upper left-hand corner was 9 by 9. So I took my ruler, measured out 9 inches by 9 inches, which is what those squares represent, to make sure that that was a reasonable room size once it's in my dollhouse. Then I moved on to the second floor, so all I did was I took the lower floor exterior walls and copied it onto the second floor because the lower exterior walls have to hold up the upper exterior walls. Then I could go ahead and add in my stairs, which need to correlate with the bottom floor. And I also made sure to denote the opening, which will be above the entry area. That will make more sense once I get into the model part of this process. For the upper floor or the third floor or the attic or whatever you want to call it, I went ahead and copied the same exterior walls, but I shaded out the area which is going to be roof, and the upper right hand area is all going to be roof that's below the attic. So I wanted to make sure that in my head I had that all laid out. And then I had the upper attic floor with the model, all of that laid out, and that one does get changed quite a bit. So again, these are just kind of my best guesses to what each one of these floors is going to look like once it's finished. Now that I've finished changing my rough sketches into some kind of 2D floor plan, it's time to put these things into a 3D plan. And this is going to involve making a practice model. Because this house is so complicated in its shape, this is really going to help me just flesh out some of those initial problems I would run into if I didn't ever try to make some kind of practice. The first thing I did here was make a copy of my original hand-drawn floor plans. I'm going to keep the original so I can just easily erase and change the pencil lines if I need to later down the road. I'm cutting out the floor plans, and I'm making sure to cut out just the areas where there will be a physical floor underneath the feet of any little doll people that would be walking through the house. This way I can see where the openings are and make sure that everything seems to align. So as you can see on the second floor, there's an opening above the stair area, and the third floor, there's an opening where there would be roof up in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to be making this model out of some recyclable materials like cereal boxes, or if you have just regular chipboard, which is just cereal box material. I like to use these because they're a little bit thinner than just regular cardboard. Because I'm making such a tiny model, these thinner pieces are going to be much easier to work with. I'm doubling up the thickness of the floor to make sure that they don't droop inside of my model. Even though this is a practice, I want to make sure that it is still pretty sturdy so that I can work with it and it lasts for a while so I can get my measurements off of this practice model. So here you can see I've cut out my floors and I'm ready to start adding some exterior walls. I went ahead and doubled some chipboard so that it was already a double layer, and I decided how tall I wanted my walls to be. I went with 9 inches, so these walls are 9 squares tall as compared to my gridded paper. So in the end, these will represent 9-inch tall walls that will be in my completed dollhouse. Now that I have these long pieces, I can go around and I'm just going to mark how long I need the exterior walls to be, and then I'm going to slowly cut them and glue them to the floor. In the beginning, I did start cutting some window openings, but it got a little bit tedious, so some of them get drawn on, some of them get cut out. There's not really a reason why I did either one. It's just kind of, my hand actually started hurting towards the middle of this project, and so some things just didn't get cut out. I'm using hot glue to glue them down quickly, but you can use any kind of glue that you like. It depends on how fast you want to go. Here I'm seeing my first mistake, that I did not include the porch wrapping all the way around the corner. And then I also realized that that back wall doesn't have enough room for a regular sized door. Another thing I realized when I was trying to put in the stairs is that the wall that goes through the center of the lower floor had to be pushed back so that the stairs were not too steep. This ends up affecting my upper floor and the design of my stairs. So these are things that are going to come out when I'm doing the 3D model that I wouldn't necessarily see from my 2D floor plans. Once I'm happy with my adjustments to the first floor, I can go ahead and put the second floor on top and start to make those adjustments that I saw needed once I was working on the first floor. And then it's basically the same process where I'm adding those 9 square tall exterior walls and adding my interior walls as well. And it just starts kind of stacking up like a layer cake. I just finished creating the second floor and adding all the walls. It goes like this on top of the first floor, and I'm already learning so much and finding a few holes in my design. I had to kind of work with cutting this floor area here, and I don't like this. This does not look like it should. In the movie, it's definitely a curved area right here. Actually, I think it curves from like here over, but I'm gonna kind of have to mess with it and see what I can get to work. I also thought, you know, I might actually build my first bathroom in this house, because I definitely think from watching the movie there's a walk-through bathroom, but I ended up having to push this wall back, which makes Lydia's room smaller to make room for the stairs to actually function and for there to be a walkway here. So in order to fix this wall being pushed back and Lydia having an extra small room, I may end up just omitting this bathroom and making this a large room here for Lydia, because her room is more important to me than a bathroom. But this is one of the things that happens when you're trying to translate a house into a dollhouse and there's limited space. Sometimes it doesn't quite work, and so you just have to kind of make it work. When I put on my second floor, it goes like this. I originally had it lining up like so. So this is the tower, which will have a floor, and then it went across here and then lined up with the back of the house like this. But in actuality, when I was looking at the house, this front line here actually needs to line up with this line right here. So this means that I need to add some additional floor right here and right here. I still need to cut this piece off to the correct size. So this, I need to add a little bit more floor to these areas, and I need to cut some floor off the back here. So I don't have everything figured out yet, but these are some of the things that I've been learning along the way that I wouldn't really have known just looking at my floor plans, because it's just kind of hard to think through all of these 3D elements. Building the third floor or the attic floor is going to be a little bit different, because I can't just use the same 9-block tall pieces. Well, I can for the tower area, but the rest of it is slanted roof. And so I'm starting with the tower because that's going to be the easiest to do. And then I'm going to be building the little triangle walls that are going to help me get the correct angle of the roof. This is going to be a lot of going back and forth, cutting pieces, trying to make them fit, because roofs are just notoriously difficult. I'll just go ahead and say it. But here you can see I have my tower, and then I have my 4 triangles that are going on either end of the A-frame roofs. In photos of the house, this triangle on this side is a little bit more removed from the tower, so what I decided to do was to make my floor a bit wider, make my triangle a bit wider, so that the point of the triangle stood out further from the tower. I hope that makes sense. But really, it's going to be a lot of going back and forth between photos and just adjusting your shape until you get what you like. Now I'm just making these book shape pieces that are going to be my roof pieces, and I put them together with masking tape. The reason for this is I want to be able to kind of cut into them and move them, and if they don't fit correctly the first time, I don't want to glue them on. I just want to put masking tape on them. And in the end, this is the shape I got. I'm having a bit of an issue with this back roof right here. This is kind of my guess on what I'm going to put back here, and I just keep reminding myself this is my interpretation of the house. I'm trying to get it as close as possible, but it won't be exact because I'm trying to put so many rooms into a house that probably didn't have all those rooms in the places where I'm putting them. So I'm trying to give myself a little grace as I go through this. But I also was thinking it'd be great if I could push this wall out. But as you can see from how I drew my floor plan on here, I've put the house onto my square and there is no more room. It's literally touching the back. And you may be asking, how do you know your limitations? Well, so I ended up buying this table before I even completed this model, and so this is why I know my limitations. This table is 32 inches by 32 inches, so I've got to make this fit. So I think there might be a way for me to give myself a little bit more space on the actual layout of where the house sits. Again, this is something I'm going to have to kind of work through, but for now, I'm just going to go ahead and finish up this house, and then I am going to go back to my original drawings and edit everything that I found that ended up being a problem when I put it into a 3D form. Going off the adjustments I made when I built my model, I went back to my floor plans, I erased lines that I didn't want, added new lines, and went over the exterior walls with Sharpie, or ones that I knew I was 100% on. Now, I did want to talk a little bit more about my Dollhouse workbook. I try not to talk about my store too much on my channel, but if you were interested, I am going to be using this throughout my Beetlejuice build, just because this is what I made this workbook for. And I will leave a link to a video down below in the description if you do want to find out more about it. And there's a video with a lot more information. But I'm going to be putting these into my sketching section in my workbook, and this is going to be a really great way for me to keep track of what I've been working on. With my Addams Family project, I just lost like every drawing I had, and I kind of wish I still had those. There's of course other pages in this workbook to help me kind of think through things, so even the dreaded budget sheet. So it's just something that I'm really enjoying using, and so I wanted to make sure and mention it. I'm also going to put some links to my scans of my floor plans that I just drew in the description box if you wanted a closer look. Even after going through this entire process during this video, there are still a few things that I am going to need to think through and iron out. One of those things is, how am I going to make this into a dollhouse? Because typically dollhouses you can see inside. What I've constructed in my model is a completely enclosed house, which means a lot of the interior you won't be able to see. There are several options for this, which is omitting walls or making hinged walls, but I don't like the idea of omitting walls because every single wall in this house is either important to the visual facade of the outside, or it's important to something on the interior that I want to create. This may be something that I make a definitive decision on soon, or it may be something that I kind of plan as I go through, maybe even just the first floor of the project, kind of figure out what I think will work. The other thing I need to work out is how I'm going to create the underworld, because I can't make this project without depicting some of the underworld scenes. Those are some of the most fun and exciting scenes in the movie. So my initial thought is that I am going to be raising the house off of the table base, so the house will be sitting up a little bit higher, and then I will build some kind of set of rooms that's actually underneath the house. Again, this is something I'm going to have to think through and kind of plan out, but I think I have a rough idea in my head, but we'll see. So please leave your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below. I would love to hear what you think. And if you have suggestions, I'd love to hear those too. Some of the greatest ideas that I have used in my projects have come from suggestions in my videos. I do realize that my plan at the moment may not be absolutely perfect, and it may not be 100% screen accurate to the movie, and I'm okay with that because I am facing some challenges in making it into an actual dollhouse. But in the end, I'm just hoping to have a lot of fun with this and recreate an iconic house with iconic scenes that'll really just bring a lot of joy. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. I hope you all have an amazing week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. There's a helicopter outside. This video is... I do realize that... Can y'all see Beetlejuice passed out back there?